with Skipper Realty Group, brokered by eXp Realty. I am with my friend and lender, Cody Wilhelm with Residential Mortgage. How are you, Cody?
I am doing pretty good. How about you?
Good, man. Another Wednesday. Here we go.
Yes.
We got some good stuff to talk about. We were just on, what do you say when you're not recording? Were we offline? Do we say, like, what's the,
Yeah, I think
is,
the term is offline, even though we
okay.
were online, we just weren't
We were
recording.
talking offline,
Yeah.
backstage. We were
Yes, in the
talking,
green room.
but yeah, we were just chatting about, kind of what are the, well, one, what are the rates today? Like, what are you seeing?
We had last week we had a really good rally. They improved like it I should have paid attention to it. I'd say quarter to 3/8%
Okay.
improvement. Then over the last 2 days, they've gone up a little bit. So we finally dipped back down below 7% for the kind of national average, and now we're just creeping right back into that 7% range. So in general, I'd say you're looking at 6.5 to 7
Really?
for a primary. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. I thought you guys were telling us it's going to be just great this year.
Oh, it
Six
is. It
percent,
is.
5%.
Yeah. No,
What is
it's
happening?
from everything I see, it's just like it's a lot of the same message that we got from last year. Like we're
Yeah.
just right around the corner, another month of this report, and we should be good to go. And here we are, still sitting in the same spot as I feel like we were a year ago, year and a half. I mean, we go through these little waves of like improvement, and then like 2 weeks later, it just erases everything that we
I
had.
know.
So it doesn't feel like there's momentum going one way or the other, but it does feel like there is momentum within the market itself, like the housing market, and
Yeah.
people seem to be picking up a little bit more steam, probably because of springtime and finally, I mean, the sun's finally coming out, and I think I
Yeah.
saw that we get the sun for like a week.
It's
So
crazy.
that
And
should
then
sell
it'll probably
homes.
snow the following week.
Yeah,
But
it'll kill everybody's crops that are just going to start growing.
exactly. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I you always, we've always seen that the sellers, and currently in these rates, the sellers are very hesitant to leave. Um, what traditionally, especially if you got in, 4 years ago now,
Hmm.
at a rate of, could be 3%, 3.5%,
Yeah.
to go to a now 7% mortgage rate. And it just kind of put it in a different way. He said, like, sellers are actually stuck. It's not that they're volunteering necessarily to stay in their
Hmm.
home. They are, but it's because they can't see themselves going from, say, a $700,000 home that they sell, and now they only can afford, based on rates, they can only afford the $525,000 home. So it's just an
Yeah.
interesting dynamic right now. It's like the housing market. Yeah, it's a different beast, because it's not that traditional supply and demand. It's like,
Hmm.
it's the demand is still there, and I think sellers still want to leave, and some have to, and they still do.
Hmm.
But right now, it's like everyone's at this standstill, kind of being like, sellers like, I gotta stay in my home, and the buyers like,
Yeah.
I can't afford your home yet, but we want
Right.
to. And so
Yeah.
it's just a weird time.
It is. I know. And you can still, I guess, depending on your version of good deal, there are still some really good deals out
Yeah.
there in what some sellers are willing to do, because
Yes.
maybe they don't need to get the top dollar for it, but so they're willing to compromise on seller credits and buy
For
downs
sure.
and, temporary buy downs. I got a client right now that's, he's doing a 3-2-1 buy down. So his first year of mortgage payment, once it gets closed, he's going to be in the mid fours, and
Yeah.
then it's going to creep up each year. But the hope and the idea is that in 2 years,
Yeah.
hopefully we're in a better situation than we are now, and he can lock into something that's lower. But
Yeah. There's always
that's a
that risk, but
$15,000 cost for the seller, and they're like, yes, we're happy to do this because we need to get out and we need to entice buyers. And so
yep.
it's not all a loss, but there are definitely, like we were talking about the first time buyers, it's a tough market to be in, but if you can be in it, there is some good deals to be had. It's just not maybe the traditional, like, super cheap half price house deal. It's,
Yeah.
still a deal though.
Sellers are more willing to flex on the different things than they used
Hmm.
to. And it takes time for everyone to kind of adjust to that, because sellers for years were just like, give me everything. I want
Yeah.
everything. And buyers are like, cool, we'll give it to you. And so it's definitely changing. The dynamics changing. So if you can be in the market, it is definitely, the buyers do have more of a say in what goes on,
Yeah.
at least from what I've seen. But I am seeing buying pick up. I think that people that maybe could afford but don't want to afford right now are
Mm-hmm.
starting to say, let's just get back in and maybe do the 2-1 buy down. Obviously,
Yeah.
that is a risk because we don't know what the market's going to do in two
Right.
or 3 years, but you can save a significant amount on monthly payments for the short term and potentially
Mm-hmm.
refinance down the road. So, yeah, we're
Yeah.
definitely seeing that. I think spring is coming, and I think sellers are starting to peek their heads out, and buyers are starting to say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this could be the norm for the foreseeable future. If we can afford it, let's do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just crazy market, man.
It really is. It feels like it's always a
Um,
crazy market too.
I know,
Like
I
no
know.
matter what's going on, there's always something that's either really, really crazy good, crazy
Yep,
bad, crazy weird. Like it never feels like there's a moment where it's like, oh, this is very normal.
this is
Like this
just
is,
normal. Yeah,
yeah, it's just kind of cruise control.
for sure, for sure. Speaking of normal, though, I do have a
Yeah.
new listing in Kaiser,
Hey,
so I
all
want to pitch
right.
that since it's our show. I can pitch that.
You can,
So, and
yeah.
if you need a lender for that home, call Cody.
Yeah.
But home in Kaiser, awesome on just under half acre, just got listed this morning.
Oh, nice.
Quiet cul-de-sac, tons of upgrades. So hopefully we
Okay.
get
If I
that one
was a
sold. But
buyer,
if
how could
we
I find that?
you can go to my website and look it up, or you can. Oh, I just put the MLS number. Um, 2434 Hassel Court in
There we
Kaiser.
go. All
I was
right.
like going to give the MLS number, just give the address. Everyone can get it. But go see
Yeah.
it, go check it out. It's a cool listing. Yeah, I got that going this morning.
Nice.
But hey, man, I just wanted
Congrats.
to talk about uh, USDA loans.
Mm-hmm.
They're an interesting one to me because I haven't had a ton of experience with them. You actually do them, unlike last week,
Yep.
where we talked about everything that you you don't
All the things I
particularly
can't
do.
do.
Now I confirmed that you can do those, so that's good.
Yes.
But they're an interesting one, and I think that I don't know. Tell me if they're underutilized because when I look at them on paper or I look at them on Google or whatever, and what they can contribute to the buyer, what they can give to a buyer, they
Mm-hmm.
seem in certain ways they seem too good to be true. And so, is it something that is overlooked by a lot of buyers, or do a lot of lenders not want to do them? Like, can you kind of talk about that?
Yeah. I will. USDA loans are probably the worst best loan out there, if that makes sense. Or yeah,
That's
because
why you guys aren't advertising them all over the
yes,
place. Like,
the reason why I think that they're, in my opinion, which is just my opinion, I think
yeah.
USDA, if they wanted to make it more user friendly and buyer friendly, they would allow the qualifying, debt to income ratios. They have so many restrictions that
Mm,
make it so tough to have. Not only do you have the geographical restriction, but they're much tighter on their debt to income. But I'll back up really quick and kind of share a little bit about it. I don't want to
yeah.
say it's
Tell us what it is in general, and then
yeah.
kind of go from there.
Okay, so it is a rural development loan. So it's for areas that are not, densely populated, bigger cities. If you just Google USDA map or eligibility map, it'll take you to their website and it'll show you what areas are eligible. And sometimes it's not necessarily like per city, it's per, like you'll see one side of a street that is USDA eligible and the other side is not. So it's really more of like a circumference around an area.
Mm,
So it's based on that. So if the home is located within the USDA eligible area, then it is eligible to be used for USDA. There's no down payment required. So it's not a down payment assistance program. It is just no down payment that's
mm,
required. The mortgage insurance that you have is reduced. So, like FHA's mortgage insurance, it's based on a percentage. It's 0.55%, whereas USDA's is 0.35. So it's less monthly mortgage insurance, which means your payment's going to be a little bit less. Um, there's not a lot to it as far as certain eligibility items to be eligible for it. I think one of the hard parts, since we have been in a housing shortage for years, that makes it a little more difficult because if you're looking in only USDA eligible areas, with there not being a ton of homes maybe for sale in your area, that might only give you, say, two or three options in a USDA eligible area. So
okay.
I think that's part of why it gets a little underutilized. Plus, they don't do manufactured homes.
Hmm.
Um, they have a little caveat where they do manufactured homes, but it has to be like brand new. So there's a couple restrictions. So not very often do you run into that situation. So that kind of eliminates a little bit. There's an income limit too per area. So like the Portland, Vancouver general, like where both of us live, it's 129,000 and some change. So if you make over $130,000 as a household income, then you are not eligible.
Okay,
And
so there
that
is
is,
some income requirements
yeah, that's a lot of times that is what ends up allowing people or preventing people, I should say, from
to get in.
qualifying.
Yeah,
Because unlike other programs that are income based, it is household income. So
I
a lot of
see.
other programs can be whoever is on the loan application and whatever income is being used, that is the income that's being factored into the qualifying part of it.
Okay.
Whereas this, say a husband and wife go in on this together and they both make, collectively they make 120,000, but they have a 20-year-old son that lives at home and he has a job and he makes $30,000 a year, whatever it is, even though he's not on the loan, that has to be considered into the income. So,
Oh,
and you're
really?
going to sign paperwork that says, I
Huh.
am not like, I am being 100% honest on, what the household income is. If you have a roommate and they make money, you
Really?
got to count that. So there are
Hmm.
little things like that that just kind of make it difficult, but
Yeah.
it's the income is based on family size. So once you get to 5 family members in the household, then it goes up to just under $180,000. So,
So you just got to
it
start
kind of,
pumping out the kids then, huh?
yeah, yeah, it's an incentive
We
there.
got to get that USDA loan.
Yeah. And then they have debt to income restrictions that are I don't want to say significant, but they're quite a bit more restrictive than FHA and conventional would be. So you really have to, the perfect scenario for a USDA loan buyer is going to be good income, but not too much income, very minimal debt, so that they can kind of fit the low debt to income. Credit score
Mm,
minimum is 620. So you kind of have to find that sweet spot for a
okay.
buyer that is qualified for what they're looking for, but they don't make too much money. But they also don't have much for debts because their debt to income might be a little high, but then they'd be fine for FHA or conventional, some of these other options. So it's like I said, it's a really great loan. Like there are so many awesome things about it, and I love
Yeah.
promoting rural growth and everything. Like I mean, we both grew up in
Yeah.
I would say a very
Both
rural
Yamhill
area.
Carlton.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like I can appreciate living rural, and a lot of people that want to live rural are not looking for anything super fancy. They just don't want to live in town.
For sure.
So to have a really good option that helps promote and build that out is, I think, great. So
Yeah, I
I'd love
think
to see
that's what
some
I
changes.
saw on just kind of the Google overlook of it, of that
Hmm.
it it's the restriction. You always think the USDA, you're like, it has to be rural, and it
Yeah.
really does. It's not as crazy as you think as to population
No.
size and things like that. But checking out that map is obviously going to give you exact things. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, I was just looking at kind of the overview of that, and I was like, oh, it seems pretty good. And why wouldn't people do it? Well, having said that, like, who do you see? Who do you see doing that? Are you talking like, almost, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but like first time farmer people, or first time, like, because you have to have, like, you're not just this, you're not a low income necessarily, but you
Hmm.
can't make,
Yeah.
it's just kind of, that's, I think, at least for me hearing what you said, it's that's the difficult part is your
Yes.
salary. Um,
I think the one that seems to work the most is say one of the if there's 2 people that are living in the household, or whatever that might be, it's one income that is good income but doesn't put them over the limit, because most of the
mhm.
time with 2 uh, employees in the home, a lot of
Yeah,
times they end up collectively making more
yeah,
than what the limit is. So it's typically somebody that is just one income and they make great money, but it's just for them,
just
for
under
what they're
that.
looking for, it's just under that cap. Or they have a bigger family and they can make more. Maybe it's
Yeah,
2 people that are working, but it's not very often. And when I do get people, it's because of the restriction with manufactured home, because a lot of times there's some good deals to be had in
yeah,
rural areas, but a lot of times it's manufactured home. So when it eliminates that, plus the restriction for where you can go, it can make it to where it's like, a lot of times I'll get people that start out going USDA, and we'll get everything worked up and ran and squared away. And then after a little bit of time, if you can't find something, then it's all right. Maybe we need to start looking at, exploring other opportunities, because the biggest benefit with it is zero down. With there being other down payment assistance programs, their terms might not be quite as well, but it's another option to be able to get them into something that's not going to be, hopefully waiting too long.
But I think in general, it's a good one to look at. And I think at least the stereotype I had when you first look at a USDA, you assume farm. Like that's like the thing you go to, or ranch or something like that. And it really isn't. Like, especially when you look at that map, you can really see, Carlton, for example, I think fits under that, or the population size. Even I think, I don't know what I looked up. I don't want to say the name, but it was some sort of town that you would be surprised that it actually could qualify, because it was actually a pretty decent sized city, so it's not just that like farm. So it is something to look at as a buyer.
And ironically, they don't want to finance on farms.
I know. And that was weird. And manufactured homes, which generally are on farm properties. And so it's just an odd that, because I do think that the overgeneralization from a lot of people is like, oh, a USDA loan, I farm or some sort of like, and it
I don't
really
want to have cows,
but they don't want you to have anything farm related.
No, they don't want anything that's going to be income producing from a farm, which is kind of weird. But again, I think that and I don't know the intentions behind it all. Maybe it's just they want to be a very, very safe loan option and they don't want to have any risk involved at all. But to me, it feels like if they wanted to really make it something that was achievable for more people, they would there's tweaks that could easily be made. But again, there's people that run that are way smarter than I am. So I'm sure there's a lot more to it than just what we see.
Smarter. They just got in a different position than you.
Well, they just might be. They might just be a little bit smarter.
Well, if someone's looking for that, I do think it's something that, especially if they're in that income category, what would they do with you? Like, do you kind of run through that stuff with them and then say, hey, here's 3 or 4 loan programs that I think are great for you, or how does that go?
Yeah. So typically it starts off with, what are your intentions? What are your abilities in order for financing to work? And so then it's a matter of, like, if they don't have down payment, then it's going to be USDA, we'll obviously explore if they're a veteran, can go VA. And then it's down payment assistance. And then it might be looking at, maybe you can get a gift from a family member. So it's kind of just exploring, like, here are all the different ways that we could do this with what you're looking for, regardless of if it's maybe not. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense, but I'd rather go over that with them to just share, like, here's an option. It's way worse than the other options, but it's an option.
Yeah. So, and you just narrow it down based on, the goals and the things that are going on.
Money out of pocket, payment, the terms, all that. So,
Nice. Well, thank you, man. If you guys are watching and you are interested in a USDA loan, or think that's something you want to tap into, give Cody a call and he can kind of walk you through not only that, but the different various programs that are out there. There are a lot of options out there for people with low down payments, to make low down payments or grant programs and things like that. So it's not just that traditional 20% down. So if you have questions, give Cody a call and get that going.
Yeah.
And if you want to buy a house in Kaiser, call Cody.
Heck yeah.
And get that going.
Yeah. Right. We need to have the ability to, like, pop stuff up on the screen.
I know. I'm barely getting microphone going, so we got to take baby steps into this thing. So let's not add screens yet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, man. That was really helpful. I think it opened up my eyes a lot to USDA loans and why they're good and bad, and what difficulties they can bring, but also what opportunities they can bring. So thank you for that.
Yep. Good options out there.
Cool. Okay. Well, until next week, man, it was good to see you.
All right. You too. Take care.
Okay. Talk to you later.
All right. See ya.